Okay, so let's get started, shall we? We are going to be talking about how you guys are engaging with your teams digitally, kind of how you're working with your teams, how you're communicating, what tools you've got in place. But before we jump into that, let's just kind of talk about, Linz, Justin, what are you guys seeing happening in your markets right now?
Ladies first.
Justin, you can go first.
Okay, fine.
Cordial people.
Yeah. Well, so bonus news, I got a showing on a listing this morning that I haven't had in a couple of weeks, so that's great news.
Nice.
So I sent out an email to my clients this week. I've got 3 listings on the books right now, and it basically, it really has, the numbers have kind of shown, in my opinion, of course, only, that the amount of showings, the amount of listings, the amount of offers and sales have sort of bottomed out. And I think Broker Bay kind of helped us kind of get our head around that in their videos that they've shown as well. But when I was looking at kind of how many houses have listed, how many houses have sold, we kind of hit the bottom number where it started to actually get a little better. We had more sales last week than we did the week before that. So I think we're sort of at the bottom threshold of how many listings and potentially how many sales we're at. I don't know where sale price is going to go, because right now I'm still seeing multiple offers on properties. Karen was just telling me that she just did multiple offers on a property on Blind Line. So, I mean, and that's a $1.7 million property or something like that. So, you know, I'm yet to be seen what sale price is going to do at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And Linz, what about you? What are you seeing as a trend in your market right now?
Pretty much the same. Like I found like the pause button was stopped 3 weeks ago. There was nothing really happening for about 2-week period. And this past week, I noticed things just like ramped right up. Like everyone that I had on hold all reached out to me saying like, hey, listen, we're ready to get going again. And other people that didn't even realize they were in the woodworks kind of reached out. I've gone out almost every day this week for showings for people who are like ready to kind of start looking in need of space, where I think the fear has subsided and things are normalized now, where it isn't abnormal to be wearing your gloves and your mask and going in and doing things, where before people were just like, it was too new, I think, where people just didn't want to adapt and it was fearful to see people that way. Now I'm seeing that that's just kind of the norm, and the people who need to move still need to move, and we don't have a definitive date on when this is getting listed, so I think they're kind of ready to go back. Last night I was in an offer with 8 other people, which we won. But it's still like, I'm not the same price point as you, Justin. You're kind of higher end listings there. But for the Hamilton market, we're still seeing it move. And like anything kind of priced under that 600,000 mark, if it's a freehold, is gone. Like it's still moving if it's priced right. So yeah, it's really this past week I noticed things are kind of skyrocketing. So what Justin said, I think we kind of hit that bottom and we're starting to kind of go up again.
That's great news, isn't it?
Hopefully it stays that way.
We'll see if that carries on. Awesome. So before we dive into some of the kind of more content that I wanted to focus on today, just so that everybody has an understanding of what types of teams you're working with, Lindsay and Justin, can you both just kind of give us a breakdown of, what your team structure looks like you and who've you got with you?
So we've got myself as a listing agent specifically. And then I've got a buyer team lead and 2 buyer agents, and then my 1 administration right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. And Lindsay?
So I have myself as a team lead. I have an admin, and then I now have 3 where it's kind of not necessarily designated as buyer roles. They can still kind of do the buying and listing side of things, but they mainly focus on the buying ends.
Okay, awesome. Thank you just for breaking that down so people can have an idea of the structure. So tell me a little bit about some of the digital tools that you've been using to engage with your team. What kind of technology have you been using over the last several weeks to keep your team together?
Lindsay, you start this one. I'm making you start this one.
All right, deal. Zoom. It's kind of the force for us. We do our weekly meeting, and it's just Zoom conference, so we can at least still see other humans. And then we're also just kind of incorporating, or we have our group chats and things like that, where before we weren't doing it, but just kind of keep morale up. We have like our little WhatsApp and Messenger groups. So we're all kind of contributing ideas and things like that to kind of keep people going, hey, we're still working. So It kind of holds everyone, I guess, accountable, seeing that other people in the team are still doing stuff. It's not just sit and twiddle your thumbs while we're in limbo right now. And we're trying to get on that a little bit better. So.
Okay. And Justin?
So we're about the same. We do a once a week meeting, and then we have check-ins throughout the week on WhatsApp and or phone, just to see how things are going. Of course, I've actually heard of teams that are taking it to another level, and everyone's jumping on Zoom and doing their lead generation on Zoom together. We haven't gone that far yet. I mean, but it's definitely an option that I'm considering at this point, because it sounds like a great idea. So
accountability, right?
Yeah. And even if you're all on mute and you just, and if you have a question, you jump in and you ask a question, but everyone's just there in the same space doing their own thing.
That's awesome.
All right.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said that's smart. I didn't even think about that.
That's a great way to keep everybody doing it together and having that energy around it still, right? And what would you say, how are you keeping morale high? Have you experienced with your teams any dips in morale?
I haven't. I think it's giving where you're kind of running around with your head cut off before. It's kind of downgraded things where we can kind of focus a little bit better on the things that we didn't necessarily have time for, maybe just didn't make time for. I think people are kind of motivated. We're doing a lot more training. We've signed everybody up, so we are doing bold pivot. So there's going to be that accountability where there's going to be mandatory training. It's not just focus on the lead gen you specifically want. So we've kind of done that, but everyone seems to be kind of excited to ramp up for when this is lifted. So far we haven't seen really a decrease. It's just the excitement for when it's over.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, and we're in the same boat. I mean, I think training's a big thing. I think some of the stuff that you've been doing, Tenley's been awesome. And there've been people, our people have jumped in on that every now and then. And I've jumped in on some of that every now and then. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing, is that if you stick around like-minded people, even if we have to do it in a socially distanced way, you're definitely keeping yourself in the right mind frame. Just prior to all of this, just totally coincidentally, I hired my first coach. So, and it was just like, I'm agreeing to pay a whole bunch of money, and then, oh my God, what do we do now? But I actually look at it like perfect timing, right? Because this person has kind of guided us through this and where we're going to go with the next few months and how this is going on. I apologize. My son has decided he's hungry right now, so he's in the microwave. So I don't know if
time waits for no one.
One of the things that was included in our coaching was a 6-hour retreat on last Saturday, which 3 of us were able to attend. And, you wouldn't think that 6 hours in front of a Zoom screen would be enjoyable, but quite frankly, when you're with 170 people on Zoom that are all like-minded, kind of driven real estate professionals that have great ideas, and we're sharing, ideas. And they did I didn't know if in Zoom you can do little breakout sessions. I didn't know you could do that. So all of a sudden I'm in a breakout session with 5 people, and we're discussing from all over North America how things are going and what we're doing. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that really keeps us engaged, and me especially, because I mean, just because I'm a leader doesn't mean I'm not going through some stuff.
Here you, buddy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you're not immune to that.
I'll admit it. Got a soft side.
Yeah, really. You're human still, right? You haven't turned into the real estate robot yet. So I appreciate you guys, especially, Justin, your candidness around that. I think that is a very real, possibility, is that, yeah, while the team might not be, you yourself may experience that dip. So I'm really recognizing that and having some tools in place to be able to manage it, and being surrounded by the right people, I think, is key, like you said, Justin. So what are you doing differently now in your day-to-day business because of the experience we're in right now with your teams? Have you increased your lead gen or your follow-up, or have you decreased it? Like, what's going on in your day-to-day business activities?
More follow-up for sure for me. I know it's the people that were kind of on the back burner. It's an excuse. Everyone has time in their home to kind of touch base and kind of let them know what's going on, where it's like, if we're not scared, you shouldn't be scared, because I think the media is doing just a wonderful job making everyone go insane. So it's laying out what the actual facts are and what we're seeing being in the industry, rather than listening to, hey, the news just said everything's plummeting when it's not. haven't really done much for lead gen, but it's tapping into your database of people you already know, I think is really key right now. I know for us, that's how, well, at least for myself, most of my business is my database and repeat referrals. So it's talking to them and still knowing that, hey, we're still working and there's still opportunities out there.
Yeah, and I'm the same. And the good point there in that, you know, you're not calling every day going, hey, you want to buy or sell a house, to random cold call people. It's just not feasible right now. But at the same time, you know, warm calls to your database are important. So everyone's on top of that. We've shifted a lot of our focus to Facebook. I've spent the last 3 days building out some pretty extensive lead funnel capture stuff that is coming. So, I mean, this is the time to be building out the stuff that you are going to be using in future to make yourself successful and executing on those things, because we have more time to do it. I mean, I haven't left my house since last Friday, which is unusual. Even even just for me to pop out, I was doing that before to go, hey, I need to go to the store or whatever and drive around for half an hour, you know, but I haven't done that since last Friday. I've been in here working, you know, building out what we're putting together so that I can keep so one of the ways to keep my team engaged is to continue to provide leads for them. I know that sounds, you know, you don't want to be handing out leads all the time, but at the same time, there is an expectation of that to some extent. So, you know, you certainly want to be in a position where you're creating opportunity for them that way too, because it keeps them happy in a way.
100%. I think the big thing too, you hit on too, we're focusing a lot more on the Facebook, the promoted posts, things like that. Everyone's on the computer right now. They're all on their phone. They're all doing everything. If you have listings, I think it's a great opportunity to do a lot of promoted posts and get the visibility out there. People are obviously still driving around, but it's still, get your name out there, whether they're not looking at listings or not. They see that you're busy and you're doing work. So I think a lot of geo-targeting on anything Facebook related, I think is really going to benefit in the long run once this hopefully gets lifted.
Yeah, people will get to know you, like you, and trust you just because they see you nowadays. They don't actually have to talk to you to get that across, right? And that's why internet marketing, Facebook marketing is so key nowadays, and will become more and more important as we go forward, as more people become more and more tied to that because of this scenario.
Well, we talk all the time about in shift, right? How Gary says when there's and again, I don't like to say that we're in a shifted market right now, but when we're in a different market than what we're used to, it's an opportunity to take territory and to take market share. So, and like Lindsay mentions, and Justin as well, upping your presence is a great way to do that. So what are you doing with your teams on a day-to-day basis, or what activities do you have your teams doing, and how are you holding them accountable to those things? I mean, normally you'd be seeing them on a pretty regular basis. You'd be in the office with them, or you'd be able to see outcomes. So how are you holding your teams accountable right now to their daily jobs?
So I know, obviously, one of the things that's lifted a lot of weight off my shoulders is having a lead buyer agent who can manage that part of the team for me. And they have their own their own WhatsApp group that they deal with stuff on their own. And I know that he's checking in with them daily. Like while I check in with him every couple of days, he's checking in with them daily. But you know, we've got targets for basically the targets have shifted to Facebook contacts. The two things we're doing big time right now are Facebook contacts and command health percentage. So we're trying to get the command health percentage up and trying to contact as many soft contact, not salesy contact people on Facebook, just to reconnect with people.
Yeah, again, it's for us, it's just that kind of the weekly meeting, we have kind of the checkpoints of what everyone needs to kind of do each week, the bold pivot. A lot of it too is working on when we did our meetings, it's kind of as a group, I wanted to know what the other girls want to see happen. So we're kind of collaborating on different ideas for marketing material. So I think, well, I know they also like it too, is being able to have a voice of what they would like to see in their business too, to help them grow. So it's just kind of changing the focus. Before it was like, hey, this is kind of the track we're running on, take it and go. It's getting the input from them as well to keep them motivated and know that we're kind of listening to what they want to see happen as well. So we're just kind of doing a lot more back-end marketing for when people to make things flush a little bit faster.
Okay. So Justin, you were saying your focus is primarily more on softer contacts through social.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have specific metrics around that you want to see from them daily?
I'm trying to get them up to 100 contacts a week. of how many people they've reached out to. Part of what we've been doing lately is we've changed our direction of how we're posting in general. And anybody can look on my Facebook page to see what I've been doing lately, and understand, I'm waiting for a kid to slam a door, understand that we've changed things in order to create more engagement, right? And so one of the things that has been happening for us more regularly than ever is that we're getting more engagement on the post. So part of the contact is, responding to contacts. So when people post or put a response or reply on your post, they then you have to jump in and say something back to them. Nothing fake or stupid, like genuinely look into who they are, what they're doing, and have a conversation, and so the metric for us is 100 contacts, and then follow up with every single person that puts a comment on any one of your posts.
Awesome. And so how were you doing this before? How are you tracking or holding them accountable to those things? And has it had to change because of current circumstances?
Well, before for us, it was a lot of phone call, email stuff that was just different. It was different,
Right.
So I think for now, like the reality is that, there's, I don't know how many billion people on Facebook now. So, I mean, it's the main source of activity. And you can easily say to me, oh, well, you're going to miss out on other business, but I don't care. The other business is irrelevant if I can get enough business from one source. So, at this point, as I said, most people have engaged with Facebook more than they ever have, because they've got nothing better to do. So, as soon as a message pops up, boom, they're like, oh my God, oh, I got to touch that. Oh yeah. Because they have no other communication with other people.
So, in contact, wait a second.
Yeah. Someone responded to me? What?
My spouse? I get to talk to somebody else?
Yeah, that's right. So
awesome. I appreciate sharing that. And what is something that you've started doing in the last several weeks because of COVID and being in quarantine or isolation, whatever you want to call it, that you'll continue to do after it's over?
Actually be systemized. I was just kind of like running with that, but now it's like, okay, we have time to get this in place and realize how it should have done that so much longer ago. But it's just kind of like sticking to the guns of like, here's what we should be doing on a weekly basis. We have time and implement those now. So when things do get really busy again, it's already a habit.
So what specifically, Linz?
So for ours, it was just getting back to basics. So literally it was house anniversary cards, the birthdays, touching base with people that were past clients. Like my sole focus right now, it's not necessarily the new contacts, but managing that database of people that I already have. Because I noticed last year, I looked back and there was 3 people that were my clients like 3.5 years ago, didn't touch, like it was my fault. I didn't touch base with them again. And I saw they just used Joe Schmo and listed their house with somebody else. And I was like, oh my God, it was like a stab to the heart. But that was on me, and it was realizing that I never followed up with them after, and it fell through the cracks, and making sure that doesn't again. So I think it's just it's literally just been a get back to basics.
Awesome. Very grassroots. Justin, yourself?
Yeah. So we implemented, so we knew it was there, but we were having technical issues with the Command Facebook advertising platform. And so we were able to implement it last week. And it has been, compared to what we were doing before, I would say it's probably I would almost say a 2,000% increase on what we were doing prior. And we were doing Facebook marketing through a third-party company that we paid a lot more money to as well, probably 3/4 more.
Wow.
So first of all, if anybody's listening and wants to take note, that Facebook command platform is good if you do it right. I mean, I was testing out different ways of doing ads, and there's ways that you shouldn't do it, and there's ways that you should do it. And there's lots of training for it, so look into that. But the second part of that is in getting a new wave of leads that we didn't have. So we've had about 156 leads come in from it in the last 7 days.
That's incredible. So 156 leads in the last 7 days?
Yeah. And we've
I'm asking.
What's that?
What's your spend on that, if you don't mind my asking?
Under $50.
So that's less than $1 a lead.
So the two of the ads that I've got, one of the ad is $1.13 a lead. Two of the other ads are 28 and 32 cents a lead.
Wow.
And so the thing is that we've now had, and the other part of it too is the previous company we were using was sending us leads that you could almost never get any kind of even conversation with, no matter what you did, whether you texted or whatever. The current system that we've got that with this command thing, we've had an uptick of, I mean, we're up to like a 20% conversation rate, which is unheard of in marketing leads. Now that's just conversation. That's like someone responding and saying, hey, I'm interested, or I was just window shopping or whatever. And then going from there, we've had multiple, like 3, 4, 5 people out of those on searches, like that are doing something, and they're on searches. And so to sort of segue from that into pre-qualification has changed immensely. And if we're not sort of absorbing and carrying these habits on, then we're not doing it right. Because right now we're looking at people going, okay, show me everything. I need to know that you're approved by someone, or you're going to go get financially approved by my guy. I need to know where you've been. I need to know everything about you before you go see my house, because whether it's, the person's high risk or whatever situation it is, we're trying to be more and more careful. We need to take those habits and continue those forward for 2 reasons. 1, we have the habit, and 2, very much like how when people walk through an open house and know that they have to sign in. I think if we continue those habits, people will just come into us and go, yeah, here's all my qualification stuff.
Mm-hmm. It'll become the normal for the consumer as well.
Yeah. It's crazy to think back how, like, it was always like, are you pre-approved and things like that? But within 2 weeks, how it's drastically changed that approval process, which I look back and be like, why wasn't this a thing before? Like, it just makes so much sense. And I know they always say, make sure you're pre-qualified. And like, we would do that, but now it is that next level of, you need to talk to my guy. I want the proof from there, rather than being like, oh, you've been pre-approved? Great, let's go.
The word for it.
Yeah, so it's definitely much better, I think.
Excellent. Is there anything else that you've started doing in the last several weeks because of COVID that you believe you will carry forward in engagement with your teams?
Oh, because I was going to say I've started eating more, so that I don't know if that's engagement.
You should have joined the 12:30 session then with Laura Vendette. How you're interacting with your teams? What have you started to do that you'll carry forward?
Well, I think more than ever, like, we have to be so understanding of people's overall mindset, right? I mean, it's one thing to sit in an office all day and be together to be able to keep each other motivated. But this is so different than anything we've ever experienced. I mean, I've been in it 15 years, and even SARS and everything else, we never really had this, never had this. And I would even suggest that my mom hasn't had where we had a complete lockdown. It's just not something we've ever dealt with. So people's overall mental state is so important. I mean, in the days of worrying about, mental health and whatnot, this is so critical, because there's going to be a lot of agents that are going to leave the industry. And so your team could be thinking that way too. You just don't know it. So it's constant communication. It's making sure you're accessible as a leader and someone that is running things. And even though you're busy, you got to have time for them. So I think it's just being more compassionate as a human being and understanding everyone's situations. You can't just listen. It's not heavy-handed hammer like time. It's kind of boosting people up time.
Yeah, great way to say that is the humanity, right, is really coming back into it. It's not all business all the time. It can't be. That's not sustainable.
Yeah, for sure. I know for ours, like, we don't have an office space. So we've always kind of just worked in our own little segments and touch base. To be honest, we didn't do our mandatory Zoom meetings before. So I know this is something we'll carry on before. Before, it'd be every few weeks we'd get together, have a lunch, kind of run business back and forth to each other. So that, I think, is really great for everybody. And it's that we talk on the phone so much more with everybody now. And it is just that, like, most of them are at home with their kids. They're having to teach now too. They're doing so much where it can't just be real estate for them either. And it's helping them do the best they can, kind of given everything else that's on their plate. So for some, it's like, I don't have kids, so I have a lot of time to do stuff. But for the people that have kids right now, you even though you're in quarantine, you probably have less time to work than you did before. So it's recognizing that too. So
a whole bunch of new jobs added to the plate, right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question, and we're kind of right on track for timing. I know that the Zoom fatigue is a real thing. And so if we end up around 35 or 40 minutes, that I think is fantastic. So I'm going to ask a question to you guys that Christina sent to me because she wanted to hear from you on this. And if anybody else has a question, just go ahead and unmute yourself. Click the little microphone button and you can ask a question as well. I want you to get your questions answered. So Christina said this: what are you doing digitally to sustain your current business and obtain new business?
Facebook. We're getting a lot more engagement even on our just sold, things like that. And just, I think putting it out there so the world can see that you are still doing business. Anything that you can post, I think if you have current listings, buys, sells, even doing the, I have a buyer looking for this, who do you know? Like getting back to those basic posts on community pages and things like that, I think are really important. So for us, it's just same thing. It's just a lot of Facebook.
Yeah, and I'm on the same boat. I mean, so again, it's not about selling; it's about being present in a lot of ways. Even out there, to as much as it is being present to your team, it's being present to the community. And so Facebook groups are massive right now. People are in the Facebook groups constantly. So your local community Facebook group, you got to be present in there, just showing your face, and again, helping out wherever you can. So that's where it starts for us. We've started our own Facebook group that relates to educating and helping parents with kids during COVID. And so we've got almost 200 people in it that, and we've engaged conversation with all of them. And you could, if you live in an apartment building, you could start a Facebook group for your apartment if one hasn't been started already. Just creating community on Facebook is huge. And the second thing we're really working hard towards right now, which, is something that, so we're building lead funnels basically right now is what I'm doing. And don't ask me how or why, because my wife and other smart people are doing it for me because I don't have the technology and know how to do it. But basically we're building a structure of lead funnels so that, as we go along, we'll continue to build these relationships without people even realizing we're building these relationships with them. And then they're going to click the learn more. So if you've ever seen someone like Ty Lopez or any of these guys that market online and you get interested in something they've said and you follow those clicks all the way down to something where they ask you to buy something, those kind of things is what we're kind of building out right now in order to create more lead sources for us.
Fantastic. So you both have talked a lot about Facebook, and I know that, generationally, some of us have kind of moved away from Facebook over the last several years and into Insta. And that's kind of where we've lived for the last few years, but it sounds like you guys have kind of gone back into the Facebook world.
They're synonymous to me. Do like Instagram, like, I don't know for ours, but our Instagram is also linked to the business page. So it kind of automatically loops everything together. So it's just as much on there. And then Erica's way better than it than me, but doing like the Facebook stories and or the Instagram stories and getting the interaction that way. I find works a lot, but yeah, we are doing a lot of Instagram too. But I found interaction on Facebook has gone up so much more than what it was 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had a 2,000% increase, more than 2,000% increase in engagement on my Facebook business page in the last week.
Amazing.
And that's just based on, how things are going out there. Sorry, I'm just telling my son to be quiet.
Okay, this is our new reality. If
They
there's
just
a
don't know how
dog,
to shut a door quietly. That's all.
it's all right.
Yeah, so but Instagram is definitely a part of it, but I use it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
The Insta stories that I'm doing are the main source there, like just to draw people towards me, but those get shared to Facebook too because they're obviously the same company. So, but Instagram and Facebook are the two main ones. Outside of that, there really isn't much else necessary right now.
Mm-hmm. Are you finding engagement on one more than the other?
Yes, Facebook is definitely more for me than Instagram. I'll average 80 to 100 people watching my stories, and they'll answer little things when I ask questions and stuff. But definitely not as much as Facebook.
Okay, gotcha.
Facebook is a platform for 30 to 55. That's the number, right? So I mean, you look at that's the age range you're looking in. It is shifting slightly. That's kind of maybe an older number, but I think the reality, as we all get older, I guess. But I think the reality is that they're two different platforms used for two different things, right? Facebook has videos and a lot of text.
Mhm.
Instagram is rich photography, and those are the things that they're looking for on Instagram.
Okay. Thanks. That was kind of a bit of a deviation. I was just curious on your thoughts on those things. Does anybody else have questions for Justin or Lindsay about engagement with teams, engagement in their business through the kind of digital space now? Christina, did that answer your question about how they're sustaining their current business and obtaining new?
Yes.
I think so.
I think so.
So yeah.
Oh, chat.
Look, she's perfect. Awesome. Okay, well, guys, we've been about half an hour. If nobody has any questions, I hope that this was a helpful session, and in recognizing that, I mean, it's kind of neat to hear that there's some similarities in how you guys are engaging with your teams right now and how you're moving your businesses forward. And then there's some different paths that you're taking right now. It just goes to show us, right? There's so many ways to do this and to do it well. And finding your way is kind of taking bits and pieces of best practices and building your path, right?
Agreed.
Amazing. Well, thank you both so much for your time. I really appreciate you. I'm honored to be in business with you. And thank you so much to all of our guests who have joined in with us today. Oh, wait, we got a chat. Hang on. Is it a question? I loved hearing from you. I loved hearing that your Facebook is a great way to engage potential clients. Awesome. Thanks, Laura, for sharing that. Okay, gang. Well, on that note, have an amazing rest of your Thursday. Thank you for being here today. And everybody stay healthy and stay safe. And if you're going to go show homes and work in your business, wear gloves and a mask. That's all I ask of you. All right. Be well, everybody. Thank you guys both so much.
Bye.
Have an amazing day.